Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Prince William revokes Harry and Meghan's and Archie and Lilibet's royal titles, leaving King Charles speechless. According to a person with knowledge of the situation, King Charles and Prince William have extremely different perspectives on the issue of the incident involving Prince Harry and Prince Andrew. It has been claimed that King Charles is not taking any decisive action to address the issue of Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, which has resulted in a number of scandals involving these two princes. This has been a cause of concern for the media over the reputation of the royal family. According to the source, Prince William has revoked all of the titles that Prince Andrew should have, and he wants him to never remain in the United Kingdom. Additionally, he is planning to withdraw all royal titles from Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children. This causes a great deal of confrontation with King Charles. It was said by the source that King Charles and Prince William had even stopped talking about this issue. According to the source, after Prince William's processing to revoke all titles of Prince Andrew and force him to accept giving up his royal title, Prince William is reportedly requiring the join of Parliament to put pressure on King Charles to make a final move to revoke all titles of Prince Harry and Meghan and their children. This follows the fact that Prince William has been processing to revoke all titles of Prince Andrew. In this video, we will get an insider's perspective on the relationship between King Charles and Prince William, as well as what Prince William has created. William's dual-front conflict. The heir's strategy to abolish the titles of Sussex and York in a comprehensive overhaul of the royal family. The British monarchy, having previously managed the tumultuous challenges of a monarch's public health struggle, is now confronting an unprecedented internal crisis. This disaster would be unparalleled in its magnitude. The Prince of Wales is allegedly incensed and is devising a radical and conclusive strategy to alter the destiny of the crown. Sources affiliated with the Prince of Wales indicate that this scheme would lead to the revocation of royal titles for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children Archie and Lilibet. This initiative is a component of a broader, more ruthless campaign that further targets the discredited Prince Andrew and his daughters. This occurs at a moment when William's discontent with the management of the York situation has escalated to a critical level. Reports indicate that the heir to the throne believes his cancer-afflicted father, King Charles III, has not sufficiently addressed the reputational damage caused by his brother and estranged son. This notion aligns with what is being described as a significant power shift inside the House of Windsor. Prince William is advocating for a shock and awe tactic to protect the institution he will eventually lead, in contrast to the king, who has preferred a policy of tranquil reconciliation and calculated repercussions. A parliamentary act would be necessary to permanently revoke titles from non-working royals. This would permanently exclude the Sussexes and the Yorks from the official royal family. A deep ideological struggle underlies the monarchy, accentuated by the widening divide between the king and his heir. Although Charles grapples with his own mortality, he is reportedly driven by a need to heal familial rifts. William, focused on the long-term preservation of the crown, believes that surgical amputation is the only viable cure for the gangrenous limbs threatening the whole body. The Prince of Wales's determination was encapsulated by the statement, "It's war," spoken by an individual familiar with his mindset. William believes that his father's actions toward Andrew are insufficient. He believes that Andrew should not be regarded as a prince, much less reside in the United Kingdom. He believes that the only answer is to seek exile. This unconventional tactic necessitates significant political and constitutional adjustments, indicating that the future reign of King William V will be characterized by substantial and, for some, distressing transformation. The authority to make these pivotal decisions is clearly and rapidly consolidating in the hands of the king's resolute heir as the king persists in his struggle with health issues. Prince William is preparing to secure the continuation of the British monarchy, acknowledging its precarious position. The Andrew catalyst embodies unrestrained fury. The recent management of the issue of Prince Andrew is the direct catalyst for this constitutional upheaval. The agreement disclosed on Friday, wherein Andrew voluntarily relinquished his Duke of York title while retaining the style of His Royal Highness, and the title of Prince, was perceived by certain members of William's inner circle as a compromise that was perilously feeble and ineffectual. Regarding the Andrew issue, Prince William has been the most vocal proponent for the royal family throughout the years. In 2022, he significantly advocated for the removal of his uncle from military patronages and the prohibition of his use of the HRH title in public. Nevertheless, the last agreement facilitated by King Charles failed to satisfy the criteria for a durable and legally binding resolution, which William deems crucial. An associate of William informed The Royalist, a prominent royal news outlet, that the king's staff recently said that abolishing the dukedom would be a futile gesture unless the prince title was also rescinded, since prince had a more illustrious connotation. Another advocate of William said that the revocation of the dukedom would be a feeble gesture. On Friday, the king's unwavering determination is unexpectedly celebrated as a triumph when he persuades Andrew to relinquish the title of Duke. The organization is entirely dysfunctional. This dissatisfaction underscores a more basic issue for the Prince of Wales. His father's softly approach generates vulnerabilities that may be exploited by others. Similar to Harry and Meghan's ongoing exploitation of their royal titles for financial gain, despite their agreement to forego HRH styles, there is apprehension that Andrew's voluntary decision is only a public relations maneuver rather than a sustainable resolution. Consequently, he is permitted to maintain the title of Prince Andrew, which preserves the monarchy's direct association with the toxic legacy of Jeffrey Epstein. The investigative writer Andrew Lowney, whose book Andrew the Problem Prince revealed the Duke's dubious dealings, asserts that the current regulations are entirely inadequate. The sole resolution to the narrative necessitates his departure from Royal Lodge, his exile abroad with his former spouse, and the revocation of all his titles, including Prince Andrew, Lowney said. This is the sole method by which the narrative will be concluded. His position should be that of an ordinary citizen. The royal family members are subject to the law, and it is imperative that the authorities acknowledge this fact. The Prince of Wales reportedly influenced his father to impose a harsher penalty. A palpable tension exists between Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace due to the king's indecision, perhaps stemming from his illness and a family loyalty that William does not possess. An explanation was provided by a source that said, "William is understanding of his father's situation and is desperately sad about his cancer battle. This is not about a lack of respect for someone's personal life. This arises from a fundamental dispute over the requirements that must be met in order to protect the monarchy. William is aware that his father does not possess the strength necessary to engage in this clash at this time. On the other hand, William will not be scared to take the appropriate actions when the time requires it. There is a clear and present danger posed by the Sussex factor. Prince William's long-term strategic emphasis continues to be completely on his brother Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, despite the fact that the Andrew incident served as the immediate spark. The idea to remove titles is intended to be a complete solution that would concurrently tackle the Sussex problem. Many inside the palace consider the Sussex problem as a more explosive and persistent danger than the embarrassment that Prince Andrew has caused. The plan was described in detail by a friend of William's who said, "It will be a sweeping reform enacted in the early weeks of the reign of King William V. It will remove princely titles not only from Andrew, but also from Beatrice, Eugenie, Harry, Archie, and Lilibet. This would be accomplished via the use of new letters patent, which are a kind of legal document that the monarch distributes in order to communicate their intent. In spite of the fact that the present regulations, which were established by King George V in 1917, automatically bestow the title of prince or princess onto the grandchildren of the sovereign future, letters patent have the potential to contradict this. There is a high probability that the proposal would be validated by an act of Parliament, which would make it irreversible without requiring a further vote from the Parliament. This would give it unquestionable legal power. The Sussexes would suffer a severe setback as a result of this. Following a period of uncertainty that followed their leave from royal responsibilities, Harry and Meghan stated in 2023 that they would be adopting the titles of Prince Archie of Sussex and Princess Lilibet of Sussex for their children. This was the first time that the titles had been in use. It has been stated that Meghan has referred to these titles as her children's birthright. The palace was perceived to have been bounced into accepting the titles immediately after the pair confirmed their use to People magazine. In accordance with the modifications that William has suggested, that birthright would be eliminated. The titles of Duke and Duchess of Sussex would not only be placed out of use, rather they would be publicly and legally revoked for both Harry and Meghan as well. The recent introduction of their Sussex.com website, which prominently capitalizes on their royal position and contains a large ducal crest, is an example of a circumstance that would be avoided if this were to take place. This decision caused the palace to raise eyebrows. In her capacity as editor of the Royal News Network, Brittany Davies is of the opinion that such a decisive action is not only appropriate, but also essential. Davies said that William is perfectly correct in this regard, particularly with regard to the manner in which he interacts with both his brother and his uncle. Because both Harry and Andrew pose significant threats to the survival of the monarchy, it is imperative that action be taken to protect the monarchy's future. Taking this course of action is the only way to ensure that the future will be safe. It will be a really courageous decision, and it would undoubtedly destroy whatever connection that he may have had with his brother. But Harry and Meghan need to be trembling in their boots about it, because they made the decision to proceed in a direction that would result in their destroying their family. This is the outcome. Although Andrew is a historical disgrace, which is an issue that has to be controlled and contained, the Sussexes are seen as an active and ideologically driven danger inside the firm. This perspective is held by many individuals within the firm. Their public complaints, which range from the bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey to Harry's tell-all book Spare, have been directed not just at individuals, but also at the very underpinnings of the organization itself, accusing it of systematic racism and unconscious prejudice. One of the most experienced royal correspondents made the observation that Buckingham Palace considers Harry and Meghan to be a far more significant and persistent danger than Andrew and Fergie. Andrew and Fergie are not intent on destroying the British monarchy, despite the fact that they have behaved in a very awful manner. These things are complete. A disgraced son is the subject of their narrative, which is a tragic addendum. On the other hand, the tale is not yet over with Harry and Meghan. The whole survival of the institution is going to be called into question as part of their strategy, which they have put together. The distinction lies in that the father-son relationship exhibits a clash of kings. A father and son who have profoundly different ideas, which have been fashioned by their distinct circumstances, have been brought to light by the present crisis, which has shown a heartbreaking and strong fight between them. King Charles is in the twilight of his public life, having reached the age of 75, and being confronted with a significant health condition. In light of his recent activities, it seems that he is a guy who is concerned with legacy reconciliation and maybe even personal absolution. Having been diagnosed with cancer, he made the choice to meet with Prince Harry for a short contact that lasted for 30 minutes. Additionally, he continued to include Andrew and Sarah Ferguson in family events such as the Christmas walk at Sandringham, which is evidence of his desire to be with his family. According to the observation of a courtier, Charles is a softie in many ways. Because of the current circumstances, he wants to be seen as a monarch of reconciliation. He has placed a great deal of importance on that item. Prince William, on the other hand, has experienced a great deal of emotional distress as a result of this strategy. A prophecy that was promptly realized with a rush of publications about the meeting's specifics and continuing security problems was that the Prince of Wales cautioned his father that meeting with Harry would only lead to grief and predictable leaks to the media. This prophecy was supposedly made by the Prince of Wales. In his early 40s and with young children, William is confronted with the unwanted possibility of succeeding to the throne far earlier than he had ever planned for himself to do so. However, the concept of becoming king, while Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are still young, was not something that Charles wanted to ever consider. However, according to the words of one of the sources, these are the cards that have been dealt. William is acting with a feeling of urgency and a pragmatism that is on the verge of becoming really harsh because he is confronted with this truth. It is his belief that in order for the monarchy to endure into the age of his son, it is necessary to simplify, modernize, and even strengthen it. His vision does not allow for the existence of part-time royals, the economic exploitation of titles or family members who are responsible for persistent damage to the image of the royal family. According to the revelation of a friend, William has a lot of thoughts about Queen Margrethe of Denmark. It is a revealing detail that this is. It was in the year 2022 that Queen Margrethe II of Denmark made the choice that would prove to be quite controversial. She stripped 4 of her grandchildren, who were the offspring of her younger son, Prince Joachim, of their titles of prince and princess. And in her explanation, she noted that she wanted to give them the opportunity to shape their own lives without the constraints of royal ties. A huge and public rupture was made within the family as a result of the transfer, with Prince Joachim expressing his profound sorrow and regret. William does not see Queen Margrethe's actions as a cautionary tale, but rather as an example of decisive leadership via her actions. The process of determining who is in and who is out in order to safeguard the fundamental identity of the monarchy is something that he considers to be an essential, if painful, step. A power battle that has never been seen before is being created by this father-son relationship. Despite the fact that this is an extremely challenging conversation to have, the power has already shifted to the heir in quite some way given Charles's struggles with his health, observed Davies. An enormous conflict is now taking place behind the scenes between the monarch and the heir, and we are seeing it before our own eyes. Although this may not be to everyone's liking, it is the reality that has to be told. How Parliament and previous decisions affect the workings of a royal reset. To put Prince William's concept into action would need a convoluted constitutional procedure that would be far more difficult than a straightforward palace edict. Despite the fact that the monarch has the authority to grant letters patent, it is a politically and legally delicate area to remove titles from those who possess them as a right of birth, especially a prince of the United Kingdom. Creating an act of parliament would be the technique that is both the most pristine and final. There is a precedent in history for this. During the First World War, the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917 was enacted in order to provide the monarch with the authority to deprive enemy princes of their British peerages and royal titles. The dukedoms of Albany and Cumberland were extracted from German royals who had taken a stance against Britain by the employment of this method. The sovereign would be granted the express authority to revoke any royal title, including that of prince or princess and HRH status, from any living person if a new act were to be passed, which might be titled something like the Royal Titles Act 202X. The king would be protected from allegations of acting unilaterally if Parliament were to affirm this power, and the decision would be given the entire weight of the British state's authority. According to the observation of a constitutional scholar, the problem is that it requires an act of Parliament's approval. That act, I am told, is also what William intends to use to finally jettison the Sussexes so that they would no longer have any title whatsoever, the source said. This is something that any government would find to be a political hot potato. It would be a dramatic and possibly controversial moment in Parliament to force a vote on the status of members of the royal family, despite the fact that there is widespread public support for taking action against Prince Andrew and substantial popular disgust with Harry and Meghan. On the other hand, a future King William V, who would command a large amount of popular goodwill upon his succession, would be in a strong position to seek such legislation from his prime minister. According to reports, the strategy even includes dealing with William's own children. It has been suggested by many sources that Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis may have their titles informally parked until they reach the age of accountability. They would then be in a position to make their own choice over whether they would devote themselves to a life of full-time royal service or they would pursue private lifestyles. The fact that William and Catherine have expressed a wish to provide their children with an upbringing that is as typical as feasible is reflected in this. They are never addressed as prince or princess in any situation, a source close to the family stated. This includes their parents, teachers, staff, and family members. The long-term vision depicts a monarchy that is much simplified under the rule of King William V. This monarchy would consist of just the monarch, their spouse, and the direct heir along with their close family members. The remaining individuals would be considered private citizens free to pursue their own occupations, but they would not be allowed to compete for a royal title. Uncertainty regarding the future. The closing of an era. Shockwaves have been sent through the established royal order as a result of the disclosures about Prince William's plans. This event marks the conclusion of the method used by the late Queen Elizabeth II, which, despite its firmness, consistently aimed to maintain the family unit regardless of its dysfunctional nature, under a vast and often forgiving tent. The short reign of King Charles looks to be a moment of transition stuck between the traditionalist tendencies of his mother and the aspirations of his son to modernize the country. The scope of William's vision goes much beyond titles alone. Insiders have long claimed that he is open to changes that were previously unimaginable, such as calling into question the monarch's status as head of the Commonwealth and Supreme Governor of the Church of England. He is the kind of person who is aware of the fact that in order for the monarchy to endure in the 21st century, it must be seen as being relevant, responsible, and meritocratic. He is of the opinion that these attributes are being undercut by the present cast of royals who are on the periphery. A crucial examination of the monarchy's durability is going to take place during the next several months. The King of England is still undergoing treatment for cancer, and he continues to make heartfelt public appearances that highlight his vulnerability. During his journey to Manchester, where he was visiting the site of an assault on a synagogue, he seemed resolute, but obviously fragile. This was a painful image for a country that was still being adjusted to his rule. While this is going on, his successor is working behind the walls of the palace to initiate the beginning stages of a revolution. When compared to the alternative, which is to leave a constitutional time bomb for his son, to diffuse the pressure that will be placed on King Charles to take a more definitive action regarding Andrew and the Sussexes, will now be enormous. As Brittany Davies came to a conclusion, she said that the difficulty of a monarchy lies in the fact that it involves dealing with both familial and dynastic aspects. Taking away titles may lead to a great deal of friction inside a family, as we have seen in Denmark. However, there are instances when actions like that are necessary in order to protect the future. The monarchy of the United Kingdom seems to be destabilized at the moment. It may be difficult to get rid of these distracting and poisonous components, but it may be the only way to ensure that the institution will continue to exist for another generation. The House of Windsor is about to undergo a significant transition, and the scene is ready for it. The message is unmistakable. The period of the extended royal family has come to an end. This is true regardless of whether it is the result of King Charles III's reluctance to take action, the persuasion of his son to take action, or the first defining act of King William III. To emerge from the ashes of the present crises is a crown that is smaller, more ruthless, and more streamlined than it was before. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.